Have you ever checked your phone for a notification that wasn't there? Maybe you've refreshed your email waiting for a response, or bought something new and felt excited for a few days, only for that excitement to disappear. If so, you've experienced one of the most important insights in Buddhism. Not because Buddhism is about rejecting modern life, but because it begins with a simple observation. We are constantly chasing feelings, and most of the time, we don't realize we're doing it. Today, I want to explore one of the central ideas from Robert Wright's book, Why Buddhism is True, that feelings are embedded in our experience and shape how we see reality. Along the way, we'll experience another profound Buddhist teaching, non-self, the idea that you spend so much time defending may not be what you think it is. Imagine walking into a coffee shop. You smell fresh coffee, immediately something happens. Not just a thought, a feeling, a pull. Now, imagine hearing someone criticize you. Again, something seems to happen instantly. A feeling, a tightening in the chest, discomfort. The coffee seems naturally appealing. The criticism seems naturally painful. But Buddhism says something radical. These feelings aren't in the objects. They're in you. In Buddhist philosophy, every experience arrives with a feeling tone, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This is called Vedana. These feelings influence what we do next. Most of our lives are spent moving towards pleasant feelings and away from unpleasant ones. The problem is that we rarely notice this process. Instead, we assume our feelings are telling us the truth about reality. When something feels good, we assume it must be valuable. When something feels bad, we assume it must be dangerous. But Buddhism suggests that feelings are not objective descriptions of reality. They're signals, and often they're persuading us to act. This insight becomes especially important when we look at modern Western culture. Advertisements don't really sell products, they sell feelings. A car commercial sells freedom. A luxury watch sells status. A phone sells connection and belonging. Companies spend billions learning how to trigger emotional responses because feelings drive behavior. If they can make you feel incomplete, they can sell you something that promises completion. But Buddhism asks a different question. What happens after you get the thing you wanted? Usually, the feeling disappears. Then a new desire takes its place, and another, and another. As the Buddha taught, the root of suffering is attachment. We become attached not only to possessions, but also to feelings themselves. Validation, achievement, recognition. And when those feelings fade, we start searching again. Social media is a perfect example. You post a photo, a notification appears, you feel good. Someone likes it, you feel good again. A comment arrives, another little boost. From a Buddhist perspective, what's fascinating isn't the technology, it's the feeling. Notice how much of your behavior is driven by the pursuit of tiny emotional rewards. Notice how a stranger's opinion can affect your entire day. Our experience of reality is constantly being shaped by feelings we barely notice. In the West, mindfulness is often marketed as a stress reduction technique, and it's certainly one benefit. But according to traditional Buddhism, that's only the beginning. As Robert Wright writes in Why Buddhism is True, mindfulness meditation is a technique you can use for various purposes, beginning with simple stress reduction. But if you are doing mindfulness meditation within a traditional Vipassana framework, the ultimate purpose is more ambitious, to gain insight. And not just insight in the everyday sense of understanding new things. The idea is to see the true nature of reality. The goal isn't simply to feel better. The goal is to see more clearly. Because according to Buddhism, most of us are living under a kind of delusion. When we hear the word delusion, we often think of something extreme. But Buddhism means something subtler. A delusion is seeing reality incorrectly. We believe that promotion, the relationship, the house, or the next achievement will finally make us happy. Then we get it, and before long, the mind starts chasing something else. The delusion isn't that these things have no value. The delusion is believing they can provide lasting fulfillment. Another delusion is believing our feelings accurately reflect reality. When we're anxious, the future seems dangerous. When we're angry, another person feels like the problem. When we're jealous, someone else's success feels like our failure. Meditation reveals that these emotional states are temporary constructions. Their experiences arise in consciousness. They're not necessarily accurate descriptions of reality, thoughts and feelings constantly try to convince us that they're telling the truth. A worried thought says, pay attention to me. An angry thought says, act now. A craving says, you'll be happy if you get this. But when we observe these mental effects carefully, we see them come and go. The anger fades, the craving fades, the thought disappears. This is the beginning of insight. And now we arrive at perhaps Buddhism's most revolutionary teaching, non-self. Most of us assume there's a permanent me at the center of experience, a fixed person behind our thoughts, our feelings. But Buddhism invites us to investigate. When we observe our mind, what do you actually find? Thoughts appear, memories appear, emotions appear, sensations appear. But where's the owner of these experiences? Thoughts arise on their own. You don't know what your next thought will be before it appears. Feelings arise, desires arise. Everything seems to happen automatically. Yet afterwards, the mind creates a story. I thought that, I felt that, I chose that. According to Buddhism, the self is not a permanent thing. It's a process, a constantly changing collection of thoughts, emotions, memories, and perceptions. A useful mental model, but not a fixed entity. This teaching isn't meant to be depressing. It's meant to be liberating. Think about how much suffering comes from defending an idea of who you are. Someone criticizes you, someone ignores you, someone disagrees with you, and immediately the mind reacts. Why? Because an identity feels threatened. But what if that identity is less solid than you think? The Buddhist teacher Ajahn once said, if you let go a little, you'll have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you'll have a lot of peace. The deepest thing we can let go of is the illusion of a permanent self. Because once we stop clinging so tightly to our identities, many of our fears begin loosening on their own. So, how can we apply this in our daily life? The next time you reach for a phone, pause and ask, what feeling am I seeking right now? The next time you are shopping online, ask, what emotion do you think this purchase will give me? The next time you're angry, ask, what unpleasant feeling am I trying to escape? You don't need to stop these behaviors, just notice them. Spend a few minutes every day observing your experience. No phones, no direct distractions, just awareness. Watch thoughts arise. Watch feelings arise. And then watch them disappear. Over time, you begin seeing what Buddhism has pointed towards for centuries. Everything is changing. Everything is unfolding. And the solid self you assumed was running the whole show is much harder to find than you once believed. Robert Wright argues that Buddhism is true not because it requires blind faith, but because its insight can be tested directly through experience. The more carefully we observe our minds, the more we see that feelings shape perceptions. Desires drive behavior. Delusions distort reality. And the self we spend so much energy protecting may be more like a process than a thing. In a culture that constantly tells us to buy more, achieve more, become more, Buddhism offers a radically different message. You don't need to chase every desire. You don't need to believe every thought. You don't even need to believe in a perfect identity. As a famous Buddhist saying reminds us, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. And perhaps the deepest truth Buddhism offers is this. Freedom doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from seeing clearly, seeing how feelings shape experience, how desire changes suffering, how delusion colors reality, and how the self we cling to so tightly was really never quite what we thought it was.